Meteorologist James Longwith here with Dynamic Weather Agency LLC, here to talk about Hurricane Sam today. Sam is a major hurricane continuing to track its way through the tropical Atlantic. But before I could continue with today's video, I do want to encourage you guys to hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Helps out with that YouTube algorithm so more people can find our channel and find videos like this. If you haven't already, be sure to check us out at dynamicweatheragency.com. Head over to the forecast tab and move down to tropical weather, where you can find a whole bunch of information on tropical weather, including Climo and an interactive tropical tracker graphic that we have on there. And last but not least, be sure to check us out on social media and our Patreon page, where you can help support this channel by giving us a monthly donation. So be sure to check that out. The link is going to be down below in the description. Now let's get into today's video. Now, taking a look at our headlines for today, we're going to be first taking a look at some of the seasonal stats, and then followed by some climatology. Then we'll get into our National Hurricane Center products, including those tropical weather outlooks, where we got 3 areas of interest in the tropical Atlantic, where we have the potential for some development over the next 5 days. Then we'll be taking a look at some of those, favorable conditions needed for hurricane and tropical development, including those sea surface temperatures, wind shear tendency, and deep layer wind shear maps. And then taking a look at some of those forecast models, where we're going to see the models picking up on the development of a couple of those tropical systems, along with the tracks of those systems, including Hurricane Sam, the track and intensity. Now, taking a look at the 2021 hurricane season names, where we're at for this season. Right now, the big major storm we're talking about is Hurricane Sam, which is the 18th named storm of the season. We did see the 19th named storm, Teresa, for a very short time, and all we have left is Victor and Wanda. Now, as you remember last year in 2020, we had a very active hurricane season where we actually moved into the Greek alphabet once we used up the traditional names for the hurricane season. And that was not the first time we actually ever used a Greek alphabet, but last year was the last time we're going to be using the Greek alphabet. Yes, the Greek names for hurricanes has been retired, and there's a couple of reasons for this. The World Meteorological Society has found out there was some confusion with the Greek names being translated into other languages. This was creating a lot of confusion on what storms were actually still out there in the tropical Atlantic. Not only that, is the World Meteorological Organization also had no formal plan to retire any of the Greek names or reusing any of them after they've been retired is inappropriate, because we don't reuse any of the names that we have retired once a storm has been considered severe enough. Last year, both Eta and Iota were considered severe enough for the names to be retired. So the World Meteorological Organization has come up with a solution by creating a supplemental list of 21 names that we're going to be using this year, and I'll post a graphic of that sometime later on. Now, taking a look at climatology, hurricane frequency, the maximum the peak of hurricane season is around September 10th. As you can see, we're moving into October 1st. We're past that peak of hurricane season, and we're slowly on this decline, but we still have a lot ahead of us as we move through October and even into November, with basically 2 full months left of hurricane season. Now, taking a look at our tropical formation outlook. Now, we have a couple areas of interest in the tropical Atlantic. We do have 2 areas of low confidence and 1 area of high confidence for formation over the next 5 days, as noted by the National Hurricane Center. That northern area of low confidence is expected to remain low confidence because is going to be interacting with some high shear environments with some of these nice upper level troughs moving along the east coast of the United States. Is going to encounter more wind shear and moving into some cooler ocean waters. Now, the 2 areas of disturbances off the east coast of Africa, that area of low confidence used to be high confidence but has now been downgraded to an area of low confidence. The storm organization is not looking very impressive on satellite imagery right now. As you can see, as we take a look at the other INVEST system that's further to the east, is looking a lot more organized with a lot more convective activity along with it. There's about a 80 to 90% probability for formation with that eastern storm that's indicated by the high confidence by the National Hurricane Center over the next 5 days. Now, taking a look at sea surface temperatures, this is a very important ingredient when it comes to hurricane and tropical formation. Basically, what we're looking for is sea surface temperatures of 26 degrees Celsius or warmer, which is around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, why is that important, and why is it, and going back to that climatology, why is there that seasonal lag, and why is the peak of hurricane season in September when that's basically near the very end of summer? Well, to answer that for you, it goes to specific heat of objects. Specific heat is basically defined as the amount of energy that is needed to raise the object, which is in this case water, 1 degree Celsius or 1 degree Kelvin. Now, for that, ocean water is very deep. It's got a lot of depth to it, and it has a very high specific heat. It takes a lot of energy to be able to raise water 1 degree Celsius. So it takes all spring and most of summer to really heat up all this ocean water. Not only are we worried about the ocean water right at the surface, we also need to heat the ocean water up to 200 feet below the surface to another temperature of 26 degrees Celsius. And why is that important too? Well, with these low pressure systems and the convergence at the surface, it causes a lot of upwelling of water. And that upwelling of water is going to bring cooler water from below up towards the surface. If you have relatively cooler ocean water, less than 26 degrees Celsius, is then going to kill off tropical formation in these environments. Now, as we take a look at these tropical, at some of these sea surface temperatures, you can see all those oranges and reds painted on the map, and those are all above 26 degrees Celsius, with those reds approaching near 30 degrees Celsius. So we have relatively warm, juicy ocean waters for these tropical systems to feed off of, and that's indicated right here also by that tropical cyclone heat potential map. You can see all of that heat that is available for these tropical storms to basically feed off of when developing. Now, taking a look at our 24-hour shear tendency map, as you can see right here, this is Hurricane Sam right here. You can see no changes of wind shear around Sam, but further to the east, we do have some increasing shear with the jet axis moving on through the region. We do have favorable shear conditions off the eastern coast of Africa, where we have those easterly waves moving on through the region. And again, take a look at the shear, unfavorable shear and the increasing shear out of the northeast and even into parts of the northern Atlantic, as we have multiple upper level troughs moving on through the region. Taking a look at the tropical formation, taking a look at, again, deep layer wind shear, you can see nice favorable deep layer wind shear conditions around Hurricane Sam, unfavorable conditions with that jet axis moving on through. You can see that moisture darkening on this water vapor satellite imagery, indicating where that jet axis is going, and this is where we're seeing some of that increased wind shear through that region. Again, weak favorable wind shear along that tropical easterly wave with the tropical easterly jet moving on through the region down here, where we have those easterly waves coming off of Africa. And you can see right here with Sam too, you can see this kind of green axis arcing up towards the to the northwest and then turning northward and then off to the northeast. I'm going to call this right here this path of least resistance. As we take a look at some of the hurricane spaghetti models for this is kind of where Hurricane Sam is actually going to begin to track. And then as we take a look in parts of the northern Atlantic, you can see these bright white clouds on up here. This is the remnants of actually Peter on up here. And you can see this is also where we had that other area 5-day formation outlook with low confidence. You can see a lot of unfavorable wind shear moving on into the area with deep upper level troughs moving on through the region. Now, as we take a look at the GO16 IR satellite imagery, this is showing basically cloud temperatures. You can see Hurricane Sam right here, nice and well-defined eye wall with some very high cloud tops around the center of that eye wall, indicating a lot of convective banding with this storm system. Very healthy storm system. You can see the cirrus blow-off around the system, indicating a lot of good upper-level divergence. Right on up in the northern Atlantic, again, this is remnants of Tropical Storm Peter. You can see some of these upper-level troughs moving out of the northeast, and this is going to be creating some unfavorable wind shear in this region, and we'll take a close look at all these storm systems here in just a little bit. Again, off the east coast of Africa, we got two easterly waves moving on through the region. Invest 91L, least organized of the two with the lowest confidence for formation over the next 5 days. And again, the most pronounced tropical easterly wave that we have is Invest 90L. You can see a lot of this convective cloud tops and a big complex of storms moving on through the region. We have low-level convergence, and you can even see the cirrus blow-off and high pressure aloft, indicating that we have some good divergence with the storm system that's going to help with formation and with the exhaust from the system. Now, as we take a look at the remnants of Peter, taking a look at the IR satellite imagery, some of those low-level clouds as noted by some of those light gray colors right there, you can still see some low-level convergence going on with the storm system, but you can tell the storm system is encountering a lot of shear, especially as that northeast quadrant of this storm system, the cirrus outflow is confined to that northeast quadrant. Basically, as the storm system becomes extratropical as it moves off into the mid latitudes. As you see this ensemble GEFS track, you can see the storm system is above 35 degrees north latitude, so it's well above the extratropical area as it continues to move it further into the extratropicals as it moves to the north and east as it begins to parallel the polar front jet as it encounters some of those upper level troughs. Now, taking a look at the model intensification guidance for the next at least 60 hours, expected to not be stay well below tropical storm criteria. We have a few members after the 60 hours indicating that it may strengthen into a tropical storm. I still think this is kind of highly unlikely. Why the National Hurricane Center is basically forecasting low confidence is because it's going to start paralleling that polar front jet and interacting with a lot of unfavorable wind shear and moving into some cooler ocean waters. Now, taking a look at Invest 90L, this is the most robust of those two Africa easterly waves that we see moving on through the region. You can see a lot of that convective banding, some of that cirrus blow off and anticyclonic turning with some of that high pressure aloft, indicating that there's some divergence. And you can see some of those low level clouds under that cirrus blow off and some of those towering cumulus with that low level convergence on through the area. So this is the most robust system that is likely to form over the next 5 days. Now, as we take a look at some of the model tracks and model guidance, the system is going to move its way off to the north and west and quickly turn its way to the north, becoming an extratropical cyclone as it moves higher up into the northern latitudes. But as we take a look at the model guidance and stuff like that, so far the tracks are relatively in agreement, especially over the next 72 hours. A little bit of deviation as we move into the 96 and 120 hours along the model guidance, but overall the ensemble mean on the GEFS is probably the most likely outcome after 72 hours, given the outliers that you see within the models. That's most likely going to be the track with this storm system. So it's going to mainly remain across the western Atlantic and not really pose much impacts. Now, taking a look at the model intensification guidance, all the model members are expecting this system to quickly intensify into a tropical storm over the next 12 to 24 hours. A few outliers are expecting the system within the next 36 to 72 hours become maybe a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane. But overall, for most of the model agreements, we could expect to see this system become a tropical storm and remain a tropical storm over the next couple of days. Now, taking a look at Invest 91L, this is the least likelihood for tropical formation over the next 5 days. As you can tell, there's really hard to determine any actual low-level circulations with this system. It's hard to tell if there's any actual good divergence aloft going on with the system over the area, and is the least organized as compared to the system further to the east. Now, as we take a look at the model intensification guidance, most of the models are indicating that this system will potentially move its way on up into a tropical storm over the next 24 to 48 hours, but we'll have to continue to monitor this system as, like I said, it looks really unorganized at the moment, and there's a couple of members indicating that it may not even reach a tropical storm. But for the most part, most of the members are indicating that it will become a tropical storm over the next 24 to 48 hours, and this is something that we'll have to continue to watch, but this system is not expected to create really any major impacts. Now, taking a look at Hurricane Sam. This is the National Hurricane Center forecast cone of uncertainty. This cone of uncertainty is basically showing where that center eye circulation of Sam is likely to move, that center location of this low pressure system. Now, not only should you pay attention to where this forecast cone is, you should also pay attention to the outside of that cone, because the hurricane force winds, the swell, and the heavy rain is going to expand beyond the forecast cone of uncertainty by the National Hurricane Center. Now, as the system moves to the north and west, is going to maintain that major hurricane strength as a Category 4 hurricane all the way up until we get to about 2 p.m. on Thursday. Sometime between 2 p.m. on Thursday and 2 a.m. on Friday, the Hurricane Sam is likely to downgrade to a Category 3 hurricane and continue as a Category 3 until about 2 a.m. Saturday. Sometime between 2 a.m. Saturday and about 2 p.m. on Saturday, Hurricane Sam will move down from a major hurricane down to a Category 2 hurricane. The current maximum sustained winds are around 132 miles per hour, maintaining that Category 4 strength with a minimum central pressure of around 945 millibars. Sam is currently moving to the northwest at about 9 miles per hour. Taking a look at the spaghetti models, you can see Sam is going to continue to track its way to the northwest, eventually turning its way to the north, and then eventually possibly off to the northeast as it turns extratropical and begins to move parallel to the polar front jet. Continuing to take a look at some of the spaghetti models, you can see the forecast tracks on the left. Overall agreeance all the way out until about 96 hours is when we begin to see deviations for all the model members for Hurricane Sam along the track guidance. As we take a look at the GEFS, again, that ensemble track is going to be probably the most likely solution for right now, because ensembles are really great for when doing long-range forecasting, as it takes multiple members and blends them together and comes out with a mean solution. This mean solution is more likely the most possible outcome of all the solutions for Hurricane Sam. You can see Sam is going to remain well off the coast of the eastern coast of the United States, and possibly affect parts of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, Labrador region of Canada. Now, taking a look at the water vapor satellite loop, as you can see, as we went into overnight last night, we did see some eye wall reformation. You can see the eye wall became messy, then kind of filled itself, and then we saw some eye wall replacement occur overnight, and we have a new eye wall this morning. Now, taking a closer look at the IR satellite imagery, take a look at some of those low-level Q bands down here, moving on in, feeding into Hurricane Sam right here. And then again, we have that nice area of high pressure aloft. You see that cirrus blow off all the way around Hurricane Sam, indicating that we have good divergence aloft and a weakly sheared environment, as this is a mostly symmetrical storm system that we have moving on through the tropical Atlantic. And again, taking a look at schematic at basically how these hurricanes work, we have low-level convergence of air. Air is then forced upwards, and we have condensation that occurs. We have high pressure aloft that is then fanning all of those winds outward anticyclonically from that low pressure system aloft, because the anticyclonic flow of the high pressure. High pressure is also associated with sinking air, and that subsidence is what creates that eye wall, where we have that clearing in that eye wall area. So basically, that's how hurricanes work. Now, as we take a look at some of the models right here, you can see Hurricane Sam right here, and we have this nice area of high pressure and weak winds located over the eastern Pacific, as noted by the anticyclonic turning of the winds right here. And this is our steering flow for our hurricane. It's going to basically make our hurricane turn, keep continuing to the northeast, and it's going to turn northward and eventually arc its way off to the east, paralleling the polar front jet. Now, as we take a look at Hurricane Sam, as we move in through time, now, taking a look at the GFS model, taking a look at Hurricane Sam right here, you can see Sam east of, San Juan and the Puerto Rican islands and the Leeward Islands is going to likely continue to move to the north of those islands as we move out throughout the day, Wednesday and into Thursday. The storm system will then begin to start taking that northern track, moving east of Bermuda by the time we move into Friday, even into Saturday morning. As you can see right now, as we move into late to early Saturday morning, you can see some of that shear being introduced into the system. The system's starting to look less symmetrical as we move into Saturday, as it continues that northern track. As we move into Saturday evening, the system looks like it begins to re-intensify, maybe another eye wall redevelopment on late Saturday into Sunday. And then the storm system is going to begin to start paralleling the polar front jet as it begins extratropical in nature as we move in Sunday into even Monday. Now, what about the remnants of Peter? As we said, Peter is going to remain disorganized, going to start running parallel to the polar front jet and encountering lots of shear. And we're not really going to see much with Peter as we move into Thursday and even into Friday. So not much to really talk about when we are talking about the remnants of Peter and that tropical development with that northern Atlantic storm. Now let's talk about some of those storms coming off of Africa. Let's take a look at some of those easterly waves that we have on down here. Let's zoom in just a little bit and take a closer look at some of these easterly waves and see what they're going to be doing as we move into basically Thursday and into Friday. So as we take a look at some of these easterly waves right here, taking a look at that far western wave, you can see that far western wave begin to try to develop into something as we move into Thursday and Friday. But like we said, some of those model guidances are not really showing the system really developing into anything, even though it does have a weakly sheared environment. It just doesn't look like it's got that upper level divergence aloft with the storm system and not really turning into anything. But as we take a look at that far eastern storm system, take a look at that. By the time we move into Thursday, it looks like it becomes a tropical storm by early Thursday morning. The storm system is going to slowly track its way to the north and west and becoming more northerly as we move into Friday. And as we move into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the system is going to start moving even farther north into that, that area of high pressure where that upper level jet is kind of moving on through that region and is going to encounter some more wind shear and become more disorganized as we move throughout Friday into Saturday. And as the system continues to move its way northward, we're not expecting much redevelopment after that. So that is pretty much it with Invest 90L and Invest 91L. Again, I would like to thank you guys for checking out today's video. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel. Also, be sure to check us out online at dynamicweatheragency.com and our Patreon page, where you can, again, help me create more content like this on our channel by showing me your guys' love and support. I am meteorologist James Longwith signing off for today. You guys have a great, wonderful day, and I hope to keep you guys informed on Hurricane Sam tomorrow.